One more day with no arrests in the Paul and Maggie Murdaugh killings means one more day the killer or killers have to hide or run or maybe kill again. Tonight on Banfield, fear of the unknown and maybe also of the known in Low Country. And later, good luck trying to list all of the accolades behind the Chicago Bulls jersey number 33. The one that will be hanging in the rafters long after we're all gone. Scottie Pippen is a six-time NBA champ, an Olympic gold medalist, and an NBA Hall of Famer. But now you can add author to that list. And what he's serving up with his new liquor company, sure to have some tongues wagging. The great Scottie Pippen, tonight on Banfield. Hello and welcome everyone to Banfield. It has now been 15 days since person or persons unknown shot dead the matriarch and youngest son of the powerful Murdaugh family in South Carolina. And we now have a statement from the 14th Circuit solicitor, in effect, the local prosecutor, like a DA. Not about a break in that case, or even about a lead, but instead about his own insistence on playing an official role in the case. His name is Duffy Stone, and he is so far refused to effectively hand that case off to the state attorney general, despite the fact that the Murdaugh family controlled that very office that he holds for 80 plus years. Stone writes, quote, "To my knowledge, there is no clear suspect in the case at this time, and as such, speculation about the propriety of my office's involvement is precisely that, speculation." The critics point out that Stone did recuse himself after that deadly 2019 boat crash for which Paul Murdaugh was still awaiting trial when he was brutally murdered. But in 2019, Stone said, quote, "It was immediately apparent that young Mr. Murdaugh would be a suspect and that his father owned the boat and that other passengers were related to employees of my office. Thus, any comparison of these cases is simply not apt." We have a whole lot of new reporting on this case, and not just the double murder, but the boating accident and also another suspicious death. And it comes from an attorney who's close to the murder investigation and that 2019 boating accident. Let me just tell you a little bit about what this attorney told us. The attorney said that many people in the community believe that the Murdaugh family was connected to what happened to a young man named Stephen Smith. And if you've been following this case, you know that Stephen Smith, 6 years ago, was mysteriously killed in a hit-and-run accident. No one was ever found in that case, but Stephen Smith's mother was called by police investigating the Murdaugh murders to ask if there might be any connection or motive. She called that a slap in the face. But this attorney says that many people in the community actually believe that there is some connection. This attorney also says there was no police investigation in the case of Stephen Smith, seen in the photograph held by his mother, Sandy Smith. It would be odd for a hit and run to have no police investigation, but Sandy Smith sure isn't happy with the investigation. 6 years later, still no one to bring to justice for the death of her son. Then the attorney source of ours today said this: DNA from all of the people involved in the boating accident, the kids, all been submitted. And then related to the double murder, the same source says he believes that police have unknown DNA, a sample from the murder, and that they want to compare it to known DNA samples, which is why they're collecting DNA from anyone they can. This is something else regarding the mood of the people in that community. This attorney source says to us that they hear people are hopeful that this incident will reduce the Murdaugh authority and their command in this community. And here is a big piece of information. This attorney source tells us he knows that there was a weapon left at the scene. That is big news, because we at least know until now that 2 different weapons were used in this double murder, that a shotgun was used to kill Paul Murdaugh, and that a rifle was used to kill his mother. But this attorney says that at least one weapon was left at the scene. And then regarding the weapon, or weapons? One of the boat passengers from the 2019 incident was tested for gunshot residue 2 days after the murders were committed. 2 days after the Murdaughs were found killed at their hunting cabin. Police went and at least collected gunshot residue samples from one of the boat passengers. Whether there was any gunshot residue, we do not know. We just know that they were tested for gunshot residue. Here's what I can tell you after doing this job for, I don't know, a couple of decades. It's real hard to get gunshot residue off someone's hands 2 days after an incident. That doesn't say whether they had it or whether they did not have it on their hands. But we do know that at least one person has been tested for gunshot residue. With that, I want to bring in NewsNation correspondent Michael Schur. He's in Hampton, South Carolina. Michael, the power that I spoke of regarding the Murdaughs arises from their dominance of the local prosecutor's office for more than 80 years. You've been collecting a lot of information, and it hasn't been an easy job, I can tell you that much. I know how hard it has been for you to get people to talk, but you did talk to someone today who didn't want to talk on camera or give his name, but he talked about the cabin, the hunting cabin, and how often the Murdaughs actually did not use the cabin. What did you hear?
Yeah, that's right, Ashley. What we did hear from this Navy veteran and longtime resident of Hampton, as a matter of fact, he has family that's been here for generations. He hasn't lived here his entire life. He left for the Navy and then came back. He told me something that I found really compelling, which was this Moselle, right, the hunting lodge where this tragedy happened. It was, in fact, a place that the Murdaugh family used, but not exclusively. They lent it out to people in the prosecutor's office, to sheriff's deputies, to people who were friends of theirs. So this was a place that a lot of people would have stayed in over the course of the years, and certainly during the pandemic. He said he knew that people tried to repair to Moselle as a way of getting out of their houses during the pandemic. So there are really a lot of different pieces to this in terms of who got to use that property, Ashley.
It's just fascinating. Do we know at this point, I know it's early, Michael, but do we know if they have tested anyone who may have been a visitor in that hunting cabin for DNA?
Well, here's the thing about do we know, right? We don't know very much because nobody is talking in this town. And let me give you an idea. Behind me, past those South Carolina palmetto trees, you see the Hampton County Courthouse, where the Murdaughs have been part of the solicitor's office there since 1920 up until 2017. About 100 yards walking from there, as you look down Mulberry Street here and you hear the train coming through town almost on cue, that is PMPED. The M in PMPED, that law firm, is Murdaugh. So they are that close to what you have here at the courthouse. That is how close they are to the sort of the pedals of power in this town. To get people to talk today was quite difficult. I'm going to share with you an email or text I got today from a very close friend of mine who knows people in this area. I asked him to ask any of them if they would get somebody for us to talk to. And here's what came through. Please do not give your buddy my contact info. I won't speak to any reporters. I did not know Paul or Maggie. That's all I'm willing to say. It's a ticking time bomb, and I'm so far removed that talking would put me into a mess that I'm not part of, nor do I want to be a part of. That is indicative of what the people in this town are saying. I've always found that going into barber shops is a great way to get people to talk. I even got a haircut today. I'm not sure how that's going to look on the expense report, but I didn't need one. I went in because I wanted to see if I could get a little bit of back and forth. The barber wouldn't even talk in this town, says, I'm not going to talk about the Murdaugh case. I spoke to someone else who said to me that if a Murdaugh killed my mama's dogs, I wouldn't tell anybody about it. That's the kind of thing that we're dealing with. They're operating up here, and the rest of the town feels like they operate down here. I spoke to someone who told me exactly what that feels like here in Hampton. Do you feel like there would be retaliation for talking about them?
I don't think so. Not with the lowlifes like us. We just like talking about them.
What was the other?
And that's, everybody talks about it. This is Murdaugh country. People talk about them, but they don't really want to talk about them on camera because of what that could bring. Ashley?
So, Michael, I know you had a chance to talk to someone at a convenience store as well that gave us a little bit more color about the strength and power, the awesome power of the Murdaughs. What did that person say?
A really telling anecdote, Ashley. This was a gentleman who owned a convenience store here in Hampton for many years that everyone in town, but every Murdaugh as well, and there are plenty of them, would come into. And one of them, the father, you'll know that 2 days after this tragedy, the father, who had been ill with cancer for some time, passed away. And so that was Randy, Big Randy, they called him. When he went into that convenience store one day, and he was a regular customer, he said to the owner, he said, "Listen, if anything ever happens here, if you're ever robbed, call me and I'll tell you what happened." And he said that put him in awe of the power of this family. "I'll tell you what happened." That was what the prosecutor in town was saying to this convenience store owner.
It's pretty incredible. So that, since we're on the topic of prosecutors, let me ask you a little bit about this news about the local solicitor. That's a local name, really, for what everybody else in the country might consider the DA, but it sort of crosses a lot of jurisdictions. And this local prosecutor, this solicitor, Duffy Stone, says he's not recusing himself from this. I'm wondering how that's going over in a community that seems to have some pretty strong feelings about the Murdaughs and the hold on power, because I think, he's got some connections, obviously, to the Murdaughs, too.
No question. As a matter of fact, they held that office until Duffy Stone had the office. So right now, you would think that that he has some sort of tie to the Murdaugh family, certainly. The people that would come on and talk with us, and there were very few, were people who would be supportive of that. I spoke to Newton McMillan, a longtime resident of Hampton. He's somebody who knows the Murdaughs as well. Asked him exactly what you just asked me. Here's Newton McMillan.
Even when the thing came up with Paul, he refuted himself because of his connection, which is, my opinion, that's making sure there's no blowback on it, that strings were pulled or anything else.
And that's what you're going to hear from the people that are supportive. He's saying, yeah, until we have a criminal in this case, until we know who the suspect is, there's no need for this man to recuse himself. Other people in town are very suspicious of the ties between this solicitor and the Murdaugh family, Ashley.
Michael Schur, that is some incredible reporting. Fantastic work down there in a community that is not keen on talking. So great work, and thank you for letting us know all of those developments. Michael Schur, live for us down in Hampton, South Carolina. I just want to remind our viewers as well, the family is asking for help. There has been a tip line set up by the state. So far, the state's not telling us if there's any leads that have come in to that tip line. We are on the case for you. Okay, so coming up next, very special guest, the legendary Hall of Famer, Scottie Pippen. He's talking about his new book. He's opening up about what he thinks about Michael Jordan, that documentary, The Last Dance. Wait until you hear what he has to say. He's also talking racism. He's talking President Obama. And maybe the most fun of all, he's talking about his brand new line of bourbon. All coming up next. We are in the presence of greatness tonight. Scottie Pippen literally has too many NBA championship rings to fit on one hand. But he is now in chapter 2 of his career, and that includes a deeply personal new book and another passion project that is going down smooth. That's the book, Unguarded. And this is the passion project, and that is Scottie Pippen. Bourbon, Scottie Pippen?
Yes, that's it. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So first of all, I'm assuming that this is your hand on the label. Are these your digits? Are these your fingers? Because that's the name, digits.
Those are my digits. That is my hand. Yes, for sure.
How come you didn't call it 33?
Well, I had a better creator than myself, so he came up with a better name. I can't say better. He came up with another name that kind of coincides with 33.
Okay, so I'm going to just tell you one thing, that I don't normally drink a whole lot of bourbon, and my producer poured this one, and I am under the impression that that would be too much bourbon for one girl. Oh.
No, not of digits.
Okay, like I said, I don't drink bourbon very much, but I think that's got to be smooth because it actually tastes pretty good. And if you're not a bourbon fan, but you would drink it, that's got to be a win-win, right?
It's definitely a win-win. I think that's what we wanted, was a win-win. We wanted something that was smooth, a lot like myself. no sharp edges, just getting to
Look
the
at
point.
you. Look at you. Oh man, you even know how to market it. You're not just a ball player.
No, I've put in a lot of work in getting behind this brand, and it's been a great journey. So it's such an amazing thing to see it finally go to the marketplace.
Well, so I'm assuming you're a bourbon fan. Otherwise, you'd have picked tequila or vodka or some other kind of liquor. But is this your drink of choice, a bourbon neat?
Yes, this is my drink of choice now. I mean, back when I played, I drank a little bit of everything from beer. I'm still a wine drinker. So I'm a jack of all, but now I feel like I'm a master of bourbon, and connecting and creating this partnership with Dave Finney. I think we've been able to create something very special.
Well, as we sip this bourbon, and it's going to take me, listen, it's going to take me more than an hour to get down this whole thing. That's for sure. Let's talk a little basketball, because it's been a hot minute since you were on the court, and there are a lot of things that have been happening in basketball since you were in the heyday of the Bulls. I just want to ask you off the bat: do you watch a ton of basketball? Do you have anybody you've got your eye on right now that you're particularly fond of on the court?
Well, yes, I do watch basketball, and I'm a huge fan of the game still. I like watching all the players, whether they're young. I have a young son who's trying to make it into the league, and just having the opportunity to watch these players grow. Kawhi, Giannis, watching these players, looking back 5-6 years ago when these players first came into the league, they were nowhere near the players that they are now. So it's been great to watch their journey and to see them now get to that championship level where they have the opportunity to sort of carry the league, but more so to be able to carry the mantle and to be crowned champion in the NBA. It's been amazing. I think the game has truly gotten a lot of attention due to the pandemic, because we've all tried to find something to entertain us, to give us a way to escape from this life that we've been sort of stuck in for the last year.
Well, you've been busy. You got the book coming out, Unguarded. You've got Digits, obviously. That's what we're drinking. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of, there's been a change, it seems, in the way fans are. Just recently, we've been seeing fans getting back to watching the game and then acting like they do on airplanes, like crazy, throwing things at players and acting like babies, like bad babies out there. What would you do if you were on the court and fans started behaving like that? God forbid, throwing something at you.
Well, I mean, I think this is something that has been happening for a long time in the game. But I think now that we have social media, we have the ability to put out our cell phone and be able to record some of these things, that it is now being brought to a bigger picture. But, professional athletes, especially Black professional athletes, we've always dealt with criticism from the fans, from a racial standpoint to anything. I mean, I think that's why we enjoy going into hostile environment, because it has become a comfort zone for us. And we understand that when we do go on the road, that, it's about the team. It's also against the people inside of that arena. And that we know that we have to stick together as a family. And that's what makes it more gratifying, is when you're able to win. I mean, looking back at my years playing in a city like Utah Jazz, I had friends and family that were getting attacked in the stands, and stories that I would hear about, after the game. But the NBA has done a great job of really starting to police a lot of things that goes on inside of the arena. And I think it's important for the safety of the players. I mean, these are very wealthy, multi-million-dollar athletes. And I think it's important that, the league takes some kind of stance in terms of protecting them.
So one of those big-time writers out there, Texan Skip Bayless, has been pretty critical lately, and I know you read the trades, so I know you probably know some of the stuff he's been writing. Generally speaking, he's been beating up on the basketball players, calling them babies, and I'm paraphrasing here, and saying that they're not thinking of the fans. I would love to get your reaction to that.
Well, you're talking to a guy that would love to meet Skip Bayless inside of an elevator. So my reaction to him is he's a very racist guy. He's a hater. He's a guy that really comes after athletes. He's came at me several times, but he don't want to meet any of these players. He's talking behind the microphone, and he can say whatever he wants behind the microphone. But the reality of it is that he makes a lot of racist comments. He's very jealous of what these players have been able to accomplish. And he speaks that way each and every day. So I'm not a fan of his. I don't listen to his show. I am a guy that thinks that, these players are being targeted to some degree. And to some degree, it's the media, because they are jealous of these players. They're the guys that wasn't able to make it or make their college team or their high school team. So now what do? They find a job where they can come in and criticize these players, Go criticize Bill Gates. Go criticize some of the people that are not in sports. Let me see where your life is in that term. Stop talking about the athletes. We are entertainers, and that's what they're paid to do.
Wow, I mean, that's some tough talk. And I recall Fox News host Laura Ingraham saying some pretty sharp words about LeBron James when she said, "Shut up and dribble," and that set off quite a firestorm. I want to go to break. I'm going to let you think about that one for a minute, Scottie. When we come back, I want to ask you about that. Yeah. And then I also want to ask you about the platform that professional athletes, black athletes alike, the platform they have, and whether shut up and dribble is entirely wrong, or as you say, you're entertainers. Going to dig in on that with Scottie Pippen in a moment.
Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
Okay, so I assume, Scottie Pippen, when you hear something like that, it doesn't sit well. You're a pretty well-read guy. You certainly have a perspective. And you know what? Professional athletes have a lot of eyeballs and a lot of eardrums, waiting to hear everything you say. Tell me a little bit about that notion that some people are suggesting, as Laura Ingraham did, that people with that platform should stick to just the sport.
I think she's just being intimidated about the stage that LeBron has created for himself. To tell him that a guy that has that type of leverage, that type of stage, you would never tell Donald Trump to shut up and just be president, would you? But she was intimidated by his ability to move people, his ability to bring people along, his ability to make people go out and vote. And, there's no reason to criticize LeBron James about what he's done on or off the basketball court. He's been superb in both. And to insult him, to limit him to just being a basketball player is a total insult, not just to him, but to any African-American athlete.
So, Scottie, let me ask you about that. I mean, when you were playing, it was a whole different dynamic, right? Social media wasn't what it is today. And the freedom maybe to say what you want to say might have been muzzled slightly by the league or by the team management. I'm wondering if you wish you had the freedoms back then to say what a lot of athletes have the freedoms to say now. And would you have taken that opportunity?
Well, there's a little bit of a give and take to it, but I think it does give the athletes an opportunity to have a presence. You have a stage, you have ability to speak and say what you feel is right. And that's what I respect about where the game is, where these players are today. They're not just playing basketball, but they're using this stage as an opportunity to speak in volumes, not just for themselves, for the league, for other people. And I think it's important that they continue to utilize this stage and to continue to grow. I mean, I think they've done a tremendous job in helping our league, the owners, and everyone to be able to recognize that Black lives does matter. And it's important that we all make a stance to make sure that America is a better place to live in.
So that's one social issue that certainly Black athletes have been able to discuss pretty openly with either what they wear, what they say, and their actions. Then there's COVID and there's vaccinations, right? Like a lot of politicians have looked to the community and said, we need Black leaders to speak to the Black community about getting vaccinated because the numbers are lagging just in the Black community about the numbers of vaccinated people in America. How do you feel about that? One way or the other, would you have a message? You're certainly someone people listen to.
Well, I think at the end of the day, everyone has their own opinion and how they go to bed and how they sleep at night and what they think about the vaccination. We've all, absorbed all of our different news outlets about what we think. But at the end of the day, we all want everyone to do the right thing, but it's your choice. It's your choice at the end of the day as a public figure, as someone who feels that, that the vaccine is going to help us to be in a better place one day. I encourage people to do it, but that doesn't mean that everyone is going to do it. We can only encourage them. At the end of the day, that decision falls down on that individual.
So since we're having such a personal conversation, can I ask you, did you go ahead? Did you get the vaccine?
Yes, I've been vaccinated, and I'm happy I got it done, and I encourage other people to get it done. And I won't say which vaccination I got, but I'm vaccinated.
It's okay. I don't think there's too much controversy between them. It's just more the issue of do it or don't do it and who's doing it and who isn't doing it. So thank you for being candid about that, Scottie. Let me switch gears a little and talk about one. Listen, everybody and his dog saw the Jordan documentary Last Dance, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody and his dog's talking about it. And I want to talk to you about it. So first and foremost, just your overall feelings and impression about Last Dance.
What's your question about it? I thought it was very entertaining. I thought that Michael did a great job of really putting together a great documentary about himself.
So I had a feeling you'd say that, but the super duper basketball fans out there read a lot into the doc, and they felt like you were given a backhanded compliment by Jordan in the doc. Did you feel at all that the way you were depicted? A little bit. There's some blogging out there, Scottie Pippen. How did you feel you were depicted?
Well, I mean, judging on the way that the documentary was promoted, it was really about the last dance, the team, blah, blah, blah. And then, as we all know, as we watched the 8 episodes, that it was more about promoting Michael Jordan and his career and things of that nature, and really trying to minimize the value of his teammates and to build up this huge, iconic guy that pretty much carried a team in the 90s to 6 championships. And along that way, he won 6 MVPs. And he won a few NBA League MVPs, but all in all, he was trying to explain to America that basketball is an individual game and not a team game. So my story is a team game, and I'm gonna explain why.
So I haven't gotten a copy of Unguarded yet, and my assumption is because there isn't a copy for me to hold in my hands yet. It's coming out in September, I think, was the release date. Scottie, you do need to send me the copy once it's off the press. But there's what it's going to look like once it's on the shelf. That's what it's going to look like. So the write-ups on it so far, Scottie, have said that in the book, you call yourself the real locker room leader. And, truth be told, in The Last Dance, Jordan did say, quote, "There's no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen." But do you feel that he went too far by suggesting he was the real locker room leader?
You know what? I'm gonna let you read the book and let you figure it out. From my standpoint, I think the book will tell the story. Whatever that the doc left off, I should pick it up.
Not even like a teeny weeny little hint about that?
I want to keep it a surprise.
You have to come back in September then. You know what that was. You just guaranteed another interview. Okay, so when we come back, I got a whole bunch of other questions for you, but I also have a little game I'm going to play with you, Scottie, and I think you're going to do really well at it because I know you're really good at games. We're going to play some of your most iconic moments, and then we're going to ask you if you stick it or brick it. Yeah, right? You're going to have to see but you won't see the results. So when we come back, stick it or brick it coming up with Scottie Pippen.
Supersonics select Scott Pippen of Central Arkansas.
Scott Pippen from the University of Central Arkansas. He's 21 years old, and that's right, folks, you probably have never heard of Scottie Pippen.
I was going to sue them. Listen, I was going to sue them until they said my name right at the end. They said Scottie Pippen. So they got it right.
Did you get a chance to say something to David Stern about that? Like, what? Like, a guy you've never heard of, David Stern? Really?
No, when the commissioners say your name, if it's right or wrong, you're just happy that he said it. Especially on draft day. Yeah, no,
I hear you. I guess so, right? But I guess we've certainly heard your name since, so it's just fun to be able. But you know something, Scottie? Everybody talks about how back in the day you had that contract, it locked you in. You were paid, look, a lot more than most Americans, but way, way less than what you were worth and what your teammates and certainly what Jordan was making. When you were young, were you just thinking like, bummer? Or were you thinking, this is wrong?
Well, I knew it was wrong, but, you just keep it moving. At the time in the league, it was a different league. We could throw the race card out again, but I'm not going to even go there. But it was a league where, I felt like that they, based on what we done as a team, that, I should have been rewarded for my play and my performance. But, it is what it is, and we've all moved on from it.
Well, that's a very gentlemanly thing to say about what I'm sure a lot of players would maybe say something else about. So that, tribute to you. So, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about your amazing shots. You've taken some seriously great shots in your career. It's been close to 2 decades since your playing days, so I want to test your memory about some of your big plays, and I'm going to play some moments, Scottie, and then I'm going to freeze the tape, and I'm going to get you, if you can, to tell me whether you went on to stick it or brick it. Are you game?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Look at your screen. We're going to start off in 1997 with the playoffs, Scottie. You got a chance to put away Washington. It doesn't happen often, but Jordan is blocked on a last-second shot, and you grab the deflection. Do you? Oh, man. You knew it?
I stick it. I stick it. I always, every time he failed, who's there to pick him up?
All right, Scottie, here is the moment. We're going to play it full. Take a look.
22 of the 24 10 points the Bulls have in the quarter. Jordan lost it. Murray. Pippen is driving in, and the basket counts for the foul. Scottie Pippen.
How could you possibly forget? Good one. Good memory. Okay, take another one because then the game's going to get harder. This next one, okay, you ready for this one? It's the 2000 playoffs, all right? And let's see, you're playing for Portland at the time. You're down 2 against the Jazz. You get the ball. There's 12 seconds left. And do you stick it or brick it, Scottie?
Stick it.
Look at you. Look at you. Okay, here's the clip. Take a look.
Blazers don't have a timeout. They had to beat the 5-second count to inbound the basketball. Scottie's going to crank a 3. It's through!
I believe that was a 3-pointer?
Yes, I was looking like a little Steph Curry there. Old Steph Curry.
But I'm impressed with your memory. I can't remember what I had for lunch today or, let alone yesterday. Okay, also against Utah, you find yourself at the free throw line, okay? And you, Scottie Pippen, did something very, very rare. Do you remember the moment?
Break it. Break it. I remember the moment.
You remember the moment? Okay, so look, I know very little about basketball, but I know what an air ball is. Is that what that's called, an air ball?
That was air ball.
Hard to forget.
They
that
bring him
one,
off
right?
the bench. They feel that he'll be fresher. Can you believe this? That's 2 air balls by Pippen.
That was a Ben Simmons moment.
Look at your face, though. You got like a full poker face. It's like nothing's wrong here, nothing to look at. Keep moving right along. Okay, I've got you now in the 1994 playoffs against your big rivals, the Knicks. So I'm just going to let this one play out. Scottie, can you see your screen? Do you remember this one?
You know what I did.
You do?
You know, this was a stick-it.
You sure?
It was definitely a stick-it, but I put a brick on the guy that I ran into.
Okay, let's play it up full. He says he stuck it.
Myers for Pippen. Whoa, a faithful Scottie Pippen in the face of Patrick Ewing.
I never get tired of seeing that replay.
I'll bet not. And then I don't know if we had the additional video, because I think you wandered over to Spike Lee, who's courtside, and had a few words. What did you say? What did you say to him?
I told him I was a big fan and I love all his movies.
Did you really? Or did you trash talk him?
No, I said I'm a huge fan of yours and I love all your movies. I gave him
You didn't say that to Patrick Ewing, though, did you?
No, I said, sit down, little boy.
Did he smile? Did he laugh?
Yes.
Good to hear. I like to hear that it's all, a gentleman's sport in the end. Okay. Scottie, when we come back from the break, you have a gazillion and one fans, and they all have questions for you. So we're going to do some social media questions with Scottie Pippen right after this. Back now with the remarkable Scottie Pippen, who's got a bottle of bourbon with his own digits on the label. I just had to guess that, but it's pretty obvious. The bourbon is one of your projects. The other one is the book coming out, Unguarded. And our social media followers have a gazillion questions for you, Scottie. I'm going to start with this guy, Adam A. He sent in this. You're one of the best defenders in history. Who would have presented the biggest challenge for you between LeBron, Kobe, and Kevin Durant?
Depending on what era it's in. I mean, Kobe played in an era where the game had a little bit of physicality to it, where you could kind of put hands on. LeBron and KD are playing in an era where basketball is freedom. So, great question. Kevin Durant is obviously the best offensive player of those three based on his size and his ability to shoot the basketball, but they all present different challenges. And I think it all depends on which era would be refereeing the game. Is it today's era or would it be the era that I played in? I can't really give an answer to that question because they're all great players. And
look at you. You're all diplomatic. You're kind of
all.
Kevin Durant, but you're leaving a little bit of diplomacy there. Okay,
Kevin
Ted
Durant
is
6'9". He can shoot over me. And he's probably the best of those three in terms of shooting the ball. But he's playing in an even more free league than what LeBron James came up in. The game has so much freedom.
Okay, Ted is 25, asks this question. You came from very humble beginnings. What was the first big thing you bought with that first NBA contract?
I didn't buy nothing big. I came from a humble beginning, so it wasn't about me buying anything big, just trying to maintain a steady pace in my life. There was nothing that I was needing when I went into the NBA, other
Well, that's
than
wise.
wanting to be a part of the game.
That's wise. Okay, Scottie Pippen, we do this thing called Table for Two, where we seat you at a table. And if you look at your screen, you'll see that the chair across from you is empty. And you can put anyone you want in that chair, alive or no longer with us. Who would you choose?
Male or female? I'm drinking. She drinking wine or he drinking wine? I'm probably gonna put a female over there.
Well, you can put the bourbon, you can put
Obama.
anything.
Since I'm in Chicago, I want to put Michelle Obama on that side of the table.
Michelle Obama. Have you ever met her?
No, but I met her husband.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he'd be okay with that table setup?
Yeah, I think he'll be cool. I think she would definitely be cool with it. I think I'm a little cooler than her husband. We can somehow work it out.
I think you may have just made news there, saying that you're cooler than the president of the United States. I'm definitely gonna.
Hey, he wanted to play basketball, so I think he wanted to be cooler than me.
He's got a couple of really good layup shots that he released while he was in the White House. It was always pretty fun to see. Okay, got a question from. This is hard. KMSXXI, or well, obviously it's a Roman numeral. Okay, so the question is, in your 6 NBA championships, which opponent presented the biggest threat to upsetting the Bulls?
Wow. If my memory served me right, I think we won most of our championships, if not all, in 6. Except maybe the Lakers. We won that one in 5. That was probably the biggest challenge for me, even though we won in 5, because it was our first time. We were nervous. We were playing against the Los Angeles Lakers, a very iconic franchise. So I'm going to have to go with that 91 championship.
Wow. Boy, good answer. Okay, so I want to make sure everybody knows what you got going on. You got the Digits Bourbon. You got Unguarded coming out. Is it September? Is that, and it's available for pre-order, right, Scottie?
November. But I got some friends.
Oh, I get my copy in September.
I got some friends and family may start getting some early copies. So you're probably on that list.
Probably.
You're on that list. Congratulations to your show as well.
Thank you, Scottie Pippen, and congratulations on the bourbon and the book. It's good to see you. I miss you.
Thank you.